All right, so today we're going to spend some more time labeling and identifying parts of an angle. Again, this is the fundamental basics of this unit. It all pertains around angles, so it's very, very crucial that we are good labelers and that we can identify angles if it's written out for us and we know exactly where to look in the image. So kind of a quick review. If we have a single angle, and again, remember an angle is just simply a bent line, or it is two rays kind of butted together at a common point. So when we are looking at labeling, truthfully, if we've got a single angle here, and if you see a number like 2, that is the easiest way to identify and label this angle. It's the shortest, it's the sweetest, and it definitely, I think, is the easiest to see. So we could label this angle as angle 2. And again, making sure that we've got this little angle symbol out front of our label. We could also label it by the vertex, which again is that point where both your lines come together. So we could say this is angle E. Now less common because a lot of times your images are going to have more than one angle put together. And so if we're labeling by the vertex, it does tend to have to be a single angle. Last but not least, another way that we could label our angle is by using all the points. So again, I kind of talked about as if you're drawing the angle, you pass through D, E, and then F. So we could label this D, E, F. And that is a very common way that you'll see it. Truthfully, by the number or by the 3 letters is the most common that you're going to see. Because when we have multiple put together, and I like this second example here. Again, using the vertex is not very efficient because angle W, there's a lot of angle W's. We've got this one, we've got this one, we've got this one down here. So again, labeling by the vertex is usually not really an option. So if I take a look at this picture, you should see that they're kind of like 3 angles put together. And again, maybe you're kind of drawn to those numbers. So if I'm referring to this yellow angle right here, again, the most efficient way to label is by using the number. So this would be angle 3. So if you're seeing it in a problem or if you're seeing it written down, angle 3, your eye should be kind of lasering in on that yellow section. If you were referring to this one or asked to draw your attention here, this again has a number in there. So this would be angle 4. And again, the quickest, most efficient method if you have a number to use it. The last angle that is kind of part of this image is the large angle, XWZ. And again, I can't really use a number because I don't have one number that is representative of that entire angle. And you don't want to say 3 plus 4. You can only use numbers if it's just within the angle. So for this one, again, I can't really use my numbers. We already talked about how the vertex is not, kind of specific enough to get you to see what angle you're looking at, or it isn't as clear. So we would have to use all 3 letters. And again, kind of imagine yourself drawing it, X, W, Z. You could, if you're inclined, to start at the bottom and work your way up. You would just need to write your letters in that order. But again, vertex is usually in the middle. So that is kind of the most important part. Where you start, that can vary, but again, you're going in the order as if you're drawing it. All right, so let's take a look at some practice examples. Now, if you're at home, we're going to be doing this in the classroom, but if you're at home, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight different parts of our angle. I'm going to give you a chance to, in your mind or on paper, write it down, and then just kind of either pause the video, test your knowledge. But again, we're going to be reviewing and just making sure that we are very accurate and can label and identify quickly. All right, so if I'm talking about this specific angle in my image, what is the easiest, most efficient way to label it? So again, if you're at home, you can pause it, write it down, or if you're with us, I'm going to be talking about it and going through these with you. So that green portion would be angle 2. That is the most efficient way to label it. Is there another way? Absolutely. But I'm going to encourage everyone to use the most efficient ways. All right, this angle, go ahead and label it. Hopefully you labeled it angle 1, because again, it does have a number inside of our smaller angle. That is the most efficient way to label it. All right, what is a good way to label this larger red angle? So again, I'm kind of ignoring the shaded parts in between. I'm looking at that angle that I drew there in red. Okay, appropriate ways to measure it, MAO. And again, I'm kind of going in the order from left to right that I would have traced it. Or you could have written OAM. Either one of those ways would have been acceptable. Again, I can't use a number because there's more than one in between there. And just using the vertex, labeling it angle A is kind of misleading because there are actually 3 angles with that same vertex. So again, here we would need to use the 3 letters in order to label it correctly. All right, taking a look at this example, if I asked you to identify angle 4, where is angle 4 on my figure? Angle 4 is referring to this smaller bottom angle. All right, how about angle BAC? And again, guys, when we're using 3 letters, you can kind of pretend to trace them, and that will lead you into the angle that we're referring to. All right, so where is BAC? BAC. And again, actually, we could have labeled it angle 3, but because I've chose the 3 letters, you should be able to still see that same angle by tracing. So BAC is that smaller angle. It's also known as angle 3. All right, so if I was referring to the large angle here, really only one good way to label it by using those 3 points. So go ahead and label it. Double check yourself. Hopefully you wrote down angle bad, BAD, or again, if you were one that starts at the bottom and goes up, it would have been DAB. So either way, those are correct ways to identify here different parts of these angles. All right, so here let's try this one. If I asked you to identify angle 1, hopefully you're looking right here. This is my angle 1. If I asked you to label this angle right here on the right-hand side of my figure, notice there's no number, so I don't have that quick, easy option to label it, but remember your other method of letters. So this would be CBD, CBD, or you could go the other direction and do DBC. So either way, completely acceptable. All right, if I ask you to label that orange angle, this would be angle ABD. We do tend to work from left to right, so I think most of you would tend to go in this order. So following kind of your traced pattern there, ABD is the most common way that people would write it or reference it. All right, so taking a look at this figure right here. Okay, so we're going to practice a little bit more. As far as labeling, I asked you, how would I label this one? So this pink angle, if I'm referring to in here, how do we label that? Again, easiest way is if we have a number, that's what we're going to use. So this would be angle 4. If I asked you to label this angle, hopefully we're using the most efficient, shortest and sweetest method of just the number, so angle 3. Now let me throw a little bit of a curveball at you. What about if I asked you to do this angle? Whether I'm highlighting or drawing my angle, we're asked to label this angle right here. Now this one has multiple angles inside. There's more than just two angles inside. So it kind of follows that same idea. If I'm looking at that orange portion of my image, I can't use a number because there's actually two numbers inside. There's two smaller angles that are in the interior. So angle 4 and 5. There's not just one number for that orange angle. So that's out. I can't just use the vertex because A is a common point between a lot of those little angles, so it's misleading. So this would be another example where I have to use the three letters. And again, I would go in the order that you kind of trace it. So S-A-U. Same kind of idea if I asked for the large angle. I can't use a number. There's actually three numbers in there this time, but there's not just one that identifies that angle. So I'd be left to use my letters. So R-A-U. And again, it seems kind of silly, but it's very, very important that we get the labeling and identifying correct because as we move forward, you definitely need to make sure that you understand where the problem is telling you to look for different measurement values, for different relationships, things like that. So labeling is kind of the basics and the fundamentals that we need to make sure that we have in the bag before we move on. All right, so what I want you to do is grab a sheet of paper and number 1 to 5. We're going to go through five more kind of examples here, and I want you to write it down so I can see how we're all doing. All right, so number 1, what I want you to do is label this purple angle for me. So number 1, let's label the purple angle. I'm just going to go ahead and go like that so that you remember it's the purple angle. For number 2, I want you to go ahead and label this angle right here. For number 3, I want you to go ahead and I want you to go and identify this entire larger angle. Now again, there's more than one way you can label things, but keep in mind, remember, we look for numbers first, and then if we can't use the numbers when we have multiple angles together, we look for the three letters in the order that we draw the line. Okay, number 4, this pink angle over here on the left. So go ahead and label that angle for number 4. And then last but not least, what I would like you to do is label this angle for me. All right, once you have 1 through 5 written down, what I want you to do is just submit a picture of your assignment on under the assignment tab. If you need any more help or if you need any help with submissions, just reach out. Good luck.